All right, today we're going to jump into a really powerful letter from the New Testament, First Peter. Now, this was written thousands of years ago to people who were dealing with, social isolation and hostility, but, and this is the amazing part, its core message about having a resilient hope, it's just as relevant today as it was back then. So think about this for a second. We've all been there, right? What does it actually mean to have hope when things get really tough? When you feel completely isolated, or maybe even like you're under attack? Well, that exact question is what the letter of First Peter is all about. Okay, so to really get Peter's answer, we have to understand the situation that sparked this letter in the first place. This thing wasn't written in some, peaceful, quiet library. No way. It was forged in the middle of some really intense trials. So, what is 1 Peter, really? At its heart, it's a letter of encouragement. You've got the Apostle Peter writing to this community of believers, basically coaching them. He's telling them how to stand firm when it feels like their whole world is pushing back. And get this, his audience wasn't just in one place. Nope, they were scattered all over this huge area, what we now call modern-day Turkey. There were basically minorities in every community, living like exiles and strangers, even in their own lands. And this is the crucial point. It wasn't just that they were culturally different. They were facing active, real-deal persecution and hostility because of what they believed. Peter even calls it a fiery trial. So what's his advice? What does he tell them to do? Well, his first move is fascinating. He doesn't start with a to-do list. He starts by reminding them who they are. See, Peter's whole strategy is to remind them, hey, your circumstances, they do not define you. He wants to ground them in this brand new, completely unshakable identity.
And the contrast he draws here is, wow, it's stark. He's basically saying, look, you might feel like outcasts, you might feel like you're not a people at all, but the reality, the truth, you are now God's people. You might feel totally abandoned, but the truth is you have received mercy. I mean, that is a radical reframing of their entire situation.
And he doesn't stop there. He just piles on these incredible, powerful titles. And these aren't just random compliments, Think about it. In the Roman world, where everyone's allegiance was supposed to be to Caesar, calling this scattered group of, nobodies, a royal priesthood and a holy nation, that was a huge political and social statement. It was designed to give them this profound sense of value and purpose right when the world was screaming at them that they were worthless. So, what's the point of this new identity? Well, here it is. It's not just so they can feel good about themselves. No, it's so they can actually be a beacon to show everyone a better way, a way of light, right in the middle of all the darkness they were going through. Okay, but a new identity, it can't just be a label, right? Peter argues that it has to lead to a completely new way of living. This is the crucial connection. If you are a holy nation, if you are a royal priesthood, then your life, it should look different. Your actions, your ethics, your whole approach to everything has to reflect who you now are. And Peter gets super practical here. He's saying this whole holiness thing isn't some mystical, abstract idea up in the clouds. No, it changes everything. How you deal with the government, how you treat your own family, how you support each other inside your community. It's all about being distinct and doing it on purpose. Right, but this all brings us back to the core problem, doesn't it? What do you do with the pain? I mean, how are you supposed to make sense of that fiery trial? Well, Peter doesn't shy away from it. He confronts it head on. His first piece of advice is kind of a reality check. He basically says, don't be surprised. He's telling them, look, this isn't weird. For people who are committed to living this different way, you should expect some pushback. It's a way of normalizing what they're going through, taking away the shock. But then, right away, he completely reframes it. He says, this suffering isn't meaningless. And it's definitely not a sign that God is mad at you. It's a test. It's a test to prove that your faith is genuine, kind of like how fire refines gold. And then he gives them a clear 4-step playbook for how to handle it. And just notice the flow here. You start by rejoicing. Then you refuse to be ashamed. Then you actively glorify God in the middle of it. And finally, you just trust. You place your ultimate well-being in the hands of a faithful Creator. I mean, that is a deeply countercultural way to respond to suffering. Okay, but where does the strength for all of this come from? Seriously, how can anyone rejoice in suffering? This is where Peter brings in his most powerful point. It all hinges on one single thing: a living hope. This right here,
This is the engine that drives the entire letter. And let's be clear, a living hope isn't just wishful thinking. Like, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow. No, it's a confident, absolutely certain expectation of a glorious future. And it's alive because it's based on a real historical event.
And just look at the qualities of what this hope promises. Everything they could possibly lose here on earth, their property, their reputation, even their lives, is set against an inheritance that can never be destroyed, can't be corrupted, and will never, ever fade away. It's totally secure, it can't be touched. And this is the bedrock. The entire system of hope is built on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Peter's logic is pretty simple. Because Jesus conquered death, his followers now have a guaranteed future that also goes beyond death. That's what makes the hope living. So when you boil it all down, this is the ultimate takeaway from 1 Peter. The future hope doesn't make the present suffering disappear. It doesn't. But what it does is it completely changes its meaning. It puts it in context. Suddenly, that fiery trial is seen as temporary, even light, when you weigh it against an eternal glory that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Regardless of your specific beliefs, the letter of 1 Peter asks a really powerful question for all of us. How might a confident hope in the future change the way you navigate a struggle in the present? What kind of difference does it really make to feel like you know how the story ends?